So let's go to your least favorite, the one that you were like skin crawling, didn't like, least effective. What was your sense?
Oh my gosh. The cringiest. Ralph, this ad bothered me to no end. The Coffee Mate commercial with the tongue.
Oh, the tongue.
Oh. First it started off with like the milk stash. And then you just had this like explosive tongue. Like I don't eat beef tongue.
You remember the name.
Yeah, because I had to be like, how dare you? I also don't drink coffee, but I was so disgusted by this ad. I was like, you were trying to do Puppy Monkey Baby and be funny, but now I'm just grossed out like, oh, no.
I know. Oh my God, I hated it. Absolutely hated it. It was disturbing, but effective. See, there is like a lot of these companies, like they do disturbing ads so that they are effective and you remember them and you talk about them just as much as we talk about how great they are and then we remember them. But there's many that they're great and we're like, who was that by again? Like, let's look at the Boobies ad, for example, is like Novartis. You had no idea. I thought it was American Cancer Society. So me too, unless I Googled it before the show. So I find that fascinating.
What was your least favorite cringy ad?
My least favorite cringy ad, because it appeared more than once and it just disgusted me, but I remember the brand name. So once again, cringy, hated it, yet effective, was the Tubi ads.
Oh my gosh, with Lorelai Gilmore?
I don't know who the personality was, but all I know, it just skeeged me out because everybody had a skin cowboy hat on their head.
That one. So because there was also so Lorelai Gilmore was a character in Gilmore Girls. That's not the name of the actress, but there was a show on Tubi that I was curious if you saw them because I watched it on Tubi, where it would keep promoting this show that's coming on. But yeah, the like cowboy skinhead. Yeah. For me, skinhead is not a term I want to be associated with in any way, shape, or form.
It has a negative connotation. Like, such a good point.
But it was like, if you have the idea in here, we're out there with you. Like the twin brothers that were like the wizarding friends. Like I appreciated the kindness of the like, you're welcome here. But it felt like, so I go to Crunch, right? And there's like all people at Planet Fitness. It's like no judgment free zone. All are welcomed. Right. That kind of like feel good moment, which I appreciated. But for me, it was like, if it's up here and it's out there, I don't watch Western stuff at all. No. So that's not something I'm looking for. But I do watch Asian dramas and I do watch Spanish novellas and I do have unique stand-up interests, right? That I often don't find in the subscriptions that I look for. So I spend more on subscriptions for streaming services than I do if I had a traditional cable bill. Yeah. So the concept resonated with me, but I don't like skinheads. It was gross, and I don't watch Western, so I didn't feel the appeal.
So I remembered it. I remembered the name, but also it didn't resonate with me because I don't watch Westerns either. So I was wondering why they would focus on that. Maybe it's because that was the easiest way to sort of, I don't know, have shock value, but it's like, if you like Westerns, go to Tubi is basically so it's my least favorite and I think least effective, memorable, I guess.
I like memorable.
Yeah, I do know how to speaketh the language-ish, sort of. The point is that I remembered it, but I hated it, and it still didn't sell me. But I do remember now what Tubi is, because I don't have Tubi.
Yeah.
So
okay. It's free. It's the way that if you were watching it, Fox was promoting Tubi larger. There's a client we're talking with that has a film on Tubi. So it's becoming a growing item for me. But it showed me that there's fantasy on Tubi and that there's Western on Tubi. I wish it would have been like, is there anime on Tubi? Because that's the largest growing entertainment commodity. Like if you look at what Crunchyroll has grown in the last like 2 years, it's incredible.
Right.
But it didn't show me the diversity of the content. So like you said, my takeaway is like, okay, they have Western stuff.
Ineffective for me.
Yeah.
All right. So last question for you. What was the one, like there's always one that's like, I go from like funny to like ones that want to make me cry. Like end of like most, like hatred is somewhere in the middle there, or shock value. What was the one from your standpoint that maybe like tugged at your heartstrings, maybe got like an emotional response? Because there's a lot of different ways. We talk about this with 600 plus shows, how to capture your audience. We talked about humor. We talked about shock value. We talked about clever hooks. We talked about just just insane openings, like, the WeatherTech commercial, which I thought was great, with the senior citizens like going crazy. Don't worry, I got WeatherTech. I thought that one was great. But it's like, what's the one that tugged at your emotions?
I mean, it's going to be Dove. Like I hate that it's like being so stereotypical, but there were 2 ads made geared towards women.
Yeah.
And there was, Dove always has really strong empowering campaigns. I remember when we were at Disney, we would study those campaigns because it was like Fight Like a Girl, where they transformed what was a diss into a positive movement. At Disney, we were like, okay, how do we like Disney like a girl? How do we empower the Disney princess so that it's not just the stereotypical style? And like, I remember working on a campaign concept where a girl would be dressed as Cinderella, but instead of leaving a glass slipper, she left a soccer cleat. Yeah. Right. So that type of empowering Very stuff, cool. Dove always has a really strong one. You have a toddler that's running and shows how like women's like their personalities change when we go through puberty, but also like we decrease sports. I played sports in college. I thought I was going to go into being a professional soccer player. Like that was my career path. And I saw it. Like I remember I was 12 and I was not allowed to play co-ed anymore, but there was no women's soccer team at my school. So I was demanding that they let me play with the boys because 6th grade was a dividing. And then they said no. The Catholic school I went to said I could not play with the boys because I had hit puberty. So that's when I signed up for club soccer. And like it resonated with me specifically. The challenge is though that then there was also the Women in Science commercial where it was just also showing like there's a time collapse because it was not even necessarily women's science. It was about climate change, but it was then again showing like there's such a short period in which you can address this environment, and it was showcasing like the life of a child.
Okay.
So
and which one was that? Do you remember who the? Because I don't.
It was the
one.
Climate change commercial where it was showing like we have to act in this generation. So it felt like the ads were too similar in message, where it's showing like the short time that you have to enact change was based off of like a child's adolescence.
Yeah.
So it like seeing a 3-year-old running as long as she did, I was like, wow, that was a really hard shot to do because like a 3-year-old kept running. They had to reshoot that a million times, I'm sure. But it tugged on my heartstrings a lot.
Yeah. I hate to say it was the same one, but it was like that was the one before you answered. I mean, without 1 in 2 girls who quit sports are criticized because of their body type.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, as a parent who did not have a little girl but has lots of nieces, I was like, first off, there's a couple of different parts to this ad which I think are really powerful. First off, the girl is insanely cute.
Oh my gosh.
Insanely cute.
So cute.
But as a parent, I'm like, holy shit, she's running down a busy street. There's like a sign that says slow on it. And I'm like, oh, she's going to like run like right through. I thought it was going to be something about like drunk driving or something like, I'm like, no. She's got to stop. So it hooked, that totally hooked me in. Like I was like, whoa, oh my God. And then, the B-roll comes on, 3-year-old, these legs are unstoppable. And then the tie-in to later, and I've seen this with my nieces, like the evolution, like when they were 3 and what they are now and how they're going through like all this challenging stuff. Like my sister's, daughter, like she's dealing with like crap like I never had to deal with as a kid. Like we never had to deal with as parents. I don't know how she's dealing with it, but I remember when she was 3, like we used to call her like, all these funny nicknames, and she was like playing with the boys, and she was like this innocent little kid. And now she's like tortured in a lot of ways because of social and because of friends and because of changes in school and all these things. And she's an athlete and she's not going to play athletics when she's in college. I don't really know why. Is it because of her body type being shamed? It really struck me. And the fact that it is Dove is very much in alignment as a marketer. I was like, this is so in alignment with their overall brand. And they have done a tremendous amount to like pull me in and make me realize as a man, it's like, I got to rethink this. And I have a very strong female as a wife, and she constantly reminds me of how hard it is, being a female in the business world, life, all the other sorts of stuff. I get that. The point is like, I thought Dove was very much on brand, but the ad itself was really smart. So
the thing that was like, what are they selling? Like they're selling the concept, it's the feel goods, but it's, are you going to make a Dove purchase the next time are you going to choose Dove body wash? Like if they had done a tie of like body wash so that you can body watch, I don't know if there was something that could again tie into it, but it's see how the tail end goes, because if it's like, hey, we want to make sure that Dove as a brand is a household item, like the Johnson & Johnson stuff. I think they did well of tying into the athleticism. It worked well to their favor, the flag football component, because that was super cool. Like honestly, as I said earlier, the challenge of like with the games, you stop and start. Yeah. Watching flag football and see the dynamic elements to her like dodging. If there is less stopping and starting, I would actually be super interested in watching flag football. And like I say this like, oh my God, please forgive me to everyone who plays sports. But like I played soccer. I know watching a women's soccer game and watching a men's soccer game is different. It's, oh God, people are going to get so mad at me. I'm just admitting my own personal experience. I would watch men's college sports soccer games and women's college soccer games. And it often felt like watching the women's soccer games were like watching men's soccer underwater. It's just slower. It's a different dynamic pace. I'm not saying I don't like it. I love the Orlando Pride games and I love watching women's soccer, but there's a different dynamic feeling. And when I watched that flag football commercial, I thought, whoa, this is showing more athleticism than being super bulked up, having lots of padding, starting, stopping. But I don't know enough about female flag football or flag football in general to know if it takes away the part of football I don't enjoy. But if it takes that away, then I miss the commercials. Yeah. Which is what we were talking about today.
Absolutely. I've totally bought into the whole, female empowerment TV ad thing. I think it's an amazing thing. And I also, first off, like Gatorade is now doing it. Flag football is now doing it, sponsored by the NFL, by the way. But I also think that's amazing. However, there's a commercial intent. The NFL is trying to expand its audience. So let's not kid ourselves here. So just like with, the booby ad, I guess we're going to be saying that, even though I guess we're going to get an explicit rating on this show, whatever. The point is like, there was a commercial intent, which is okay. I think is like, I'm a capitalist. I also run a digital advertising agency. So it's like, whatever, man. The point is like, don't forget it though. Like all these feel good feelings. It's like, when the NFL honors the military, that's all well and good, but they're paying for that. And the military is also trying to recruit people through using the NFL. So there's always a commercial intent. The NFL is not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it because it makes financial sense. And let's never forget that.
Okay, so then I ask you this financial incentive. I assume the Ontario ad was introduced to replace a State Farm ad that was pulled related to LA fires.
This is a good one.
Yeah. So if you don't know, State Farm
I didn't even know this, but go ahead. Can you
with Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and obviously about insurance, but it was based off of a fire, which the LA fire's way too sensitive right now for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that was pulled. There was an Ontario ad, a Canadian sponsored ad, like for Ontario. And I was watching this being like, what? And it was like, we're your trade partners. We provide all this steel. We help create all these jobs. It felt so politically driven based off of the tariffs that Trump is introducing, that it felt like with that commercial intent, I would love to know what your thoughts are, because I was like, is this really happening right now? having like an Ontario ad that shows hours after President Trump had been in attendance at the Super Bowl, which again, I don't know if there's ever been a sitting president attending a live sports event like this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that well enough. So it caught me off guard, but it was an interesting, like, I can see why Trump's office would do it because it's appealing to, the 115 million individuals watching it. So I thought it was a good PR move from his side. Sucks for the added security that they probably had to do. But hours after he was in attendance, there was an ad from the province of Ontario that was essentially appealing to Americans, being like, we are your best ally. We are your biggest trade partner. If you have tariffs imposed by your president, where if they knew he was going to be in attendance, gives more understanding. But I wasn't prepared for the politically charged aspect to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And like, I know like we keep church and state separate. I didn't know that was true with sports until it wasn't true.
Me too. So a factoid is that he is the first sitting president to ever attend a Super Bowl. I felt there was, I think I was out of the room when this happened, but he was applauded, which, what is it? 77 million people voted for him. So he did win the popular vote. He won all the swing states. I get it. Fine. There you go. We've accepted that fact. The point is I felt that was overly political, him being there, but that's him. Yeah, like he is a attention whore. Like, and you can't deny that is not the case. I don't care if you like him or you hate him. He wants to be in the spotlight constantly, and that is what he does. Presidents usually don't act that way. They aren't. That was considered unpresidential. He is anything but. He's the antithesis of that. He's a celebrity. Yes, we had Ronald Reagan, of course, that is now president. So this is in alignment with him. He's consistent with who he is.
Yeah.
I will give him that. However, I didn't like the fact that it was political. If Joe Biden showed up, if Kamala Harris showed up, I wouldn't have liked that either. Just because I think like the Super Bowl is like, leave the politics out of it. You know what I mean?
I think like they could attend, like them being there, like you see all the different celebrities. Tobey Maguire was there. Sure. Like, again, looking at the sweet shots. But his presence became part of coverage and they did photo ops and things of that nature. But regardless, at Wimbledon, you always have big heads of states. I think it was a smart move from Trump's team to go after the wider appeal because it's, Taylor Swift fans are watching and a lot of people that didn't vote for him are watching and a lot of people that did vote for him are watching. I think he's showcasing that he's trying to be the every American's president. And I don't know if he watches football, but he's showing up where Americans are showing up. So I will say that was a really smart move on their side, but it set the stage for when another state advertised during the American broadcast. It's in 195 countries. And just I love Canada, don't get me wrong. And I think that we've talked about how the tariffs can be really challenging. I just didn't expect a government style ad during a football event. But we also had a religious ad, right? So we had religious ads, we had pharmaceutical ads. There was a huge diversity of ads. And I think it goes back to earlier when I was like, we didn't have as many beer commercials as in the past. And the audience is growing. I think the demographic is leaning more towards middle right, which is bringing different new advertisers. I mean, this is the first time we ever had AI advertise and it showed up in full force.
Oh, 100%.
And we had Matthew McConaughey. He was in 3 different ads. If there was a winner of the Super Bowl beyond Tom Brady and this $2 to $5 million sponsorship he got with that watch, it's that Matthew McConaughey
didn't
was
even talk
in
about
3
that. But anyway,
ads.
3 ads. Insane. So Super Bowl of this past year in 2025 was the most watched Super Bowl ever. 127.7 million viewers. So whether or not, for example, my wife wouldn't watch it because she hates Trump. With a passion. So she did not watch. However, it doesn't really matter because 127.7 million people did. And I think Taylor Swift has a lot to do with that. I think Trump has something to do with that. I think the fact that, it was, 2 very rabid football markets had something to do with it. There was the three-peat that was on the line with Casey. There was a lot of drama. There was a lot of buildup. I mean, I watched every minute except, some of the commercials, obviously. The point is that it didn't really hurt it. The point is it did feel a little bit overly political to me. So last one here. What was your most disappointing commercial?
Oh, Taco Bell.
Taco Bell. Okay. Tell me about that.
Taco Bell had LeBron James, and they were like, hey, we're pulling our budget for bringing in a celebrity, and we're going to focus on the people that shop at Taco Bell. So then they had this like mirage of individuals at Taco Bell showcasing them so that maybe they can freeze frame and be like, look, I was in a Super Bowl commercial. I thought the idea was great, but then they still had LeBron James in it. And it was so close to another ad that had a lot of consumer images as well. So when you have concepts that are similar, which is like why I said like the Dove commercial and the climate change commercial, again, like more on the political, that's interesting because I didn't notice the politically charged aspect.
It's a little bit political right there.
Anyways, Sure. When the concepts are similar, we had the tongue with Coffee Mate, we had the eyebrows with Pringles. Right. It just seemed like
mustaches.
Mustaches. They made a unibrow at one point. Like I think the mustache became a unibrow on someone. Maybe that's where it's getting it. But
that's right. It did. It landed, I think, on a little kid. Yeah.
So when the concepts are so similar, it kind of like washes it out. Unlike whereas like in Hollywood, like The Illusionist and The Magician had come out in the same time period. Like you do it intentionally because it's like 2 Starbucks across the street from each other, gas stations. 1 + 1 = 3. But I didn't like the Taco Bell commercial because it had just come after, like 2 commercials before it was in the same instance where they were showing users and crowd collected pictures. And then they still had the actor.
Yeah.
And they still had the celebrity. And it was too much like the Anna Kendrick Newcastle ad, where it was like, I signed up to be in a Super Bowl commercial. How dare you not put me in a Super Bowl commercial?
Yeah.
So it felt repeated and unoriginal.
It was. And if you don't know, Super Bowl ads, like before they're aired, they're all like, these are months in advance. Like these are years in the making in some cases. For the sake of argument, you go down this road on mustache versus eyebrow, like they're not talking to each other. Like they then present it 2, 3, 4 weeks out.
Oh no, mustache versus tongue.
Mustache versus tongue versus eyebrows. There was the Eugene Levy commercial for, I believe it was Little Caesars. Now I'm trying to remember off the top of my head where his eyebrows flew off. So it was eyebrows, there was mustaches for Pringles, and then there was the tongue. They didn't obviously all talk to each other, but they all kind of meshed together a bit there, which is sort of a weird dynamic when you have this much money on the line, this much production, and then they're all sort of pushed together 3 weeks, 3-4 weeks before the actual event. Knowing what I know about the Super Bowl, having an insider that Jen used to cover it all the time for years and years. The point is, it's like, I agree with you. The Taco Bell one was totally forgettable. For me, the most disappointing one, bringing back the Boston thing, the DunKings.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Disappointing. And then there's a full-length DunKings, like the movie, and it's mediocre. And the funny thing is like, I'm a Bostonian. I get it with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Matt Damon, actually, I thought in the Stella Artois commercial with David Beckham,
with David Beckham
was really funny.
Yeah, where they were like, it reminds me of Ben Affleck, like those like passive aggressive moments.
Yeah, it was so great. Like that's so really good. But mark my words, if you are not from Boston, Ben Affleck is exaggerating his Boston accent like to the nth degree, and it bugs the crap out of me because people really don't talk that way. I know some people that do talk that way. He's exaggerating it for effect, and everybody in Boston would be really pissed off about that. And they're like, oh, Ben's our boy. Well, he's not really our boy. He's like a love-hate relationship. Matt Damon's definitely more popular here. But anyway, he wasn't in the commercial. Tom Brady was also done Kings. He was doing enough commercials. He wasn't in it. And then there was Bill Belichick in the background trying to be Bill Belichick. And it was just, it was so forced. It was so ill-conceived. And then I forget the method actor who like emerges out of the soup of beans. I thought that was disgusting. So that was my least favorite ad. Very disappointed with DunKings. They have a lot of work to do, in my opinion.
I will say that like the tie-in because of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and that like known friendship, like provided greater lift for Stella Artois. But I will say that forgive me for saying this, but unless you have like statistics that say Gen Z and Gen Alpha aren't watching the Super Bowl, then I'm wrong. But I don't think most people will know the Ben Affleck Matt Damon relationship. I think like you have to be over a certain age to even know that they are friends and that they create a lot of stuff together. So I thought there was a lot of stuff that I thought in some of those commercials, those inside jokes that went over younger audiences' heads.
Completely. So least like most disappointing, least effective, in my opinion. I thought it was sort of tied with DunKings. So anyway, I do love Dunkin' Donuts, but not that much. It's, you know,
well, you're going to have coffee, mate, because it didn't bother you as much.
It's coffee, beans, and water. You know, I'm watching it as we're actually speaking here. It's like, it's so annoying to look at Ben Affleck because he's like, he's like exaggerating the Boston accent so much, you know, like this. Oh my freaking God. Anyway, those are our 5 categories. Love, hate, effective, emotional. Hopefully we pulled out some marketing tidbits here for you, the marketer, because I think when you watch these, and if you are doing what we're doing every single day, and probably if you're listening to the show, you're probably doing it as well. Like you can learn a lot from all of these. So much. I mean,
especially like when you look on, if you have the chance at a next big event, I mean, because reality is American football has nothing on World Cup soccer. So if you're advertising, like, let's just be clear, America Cup, like they have billion watchers. We have 100 million. So at a future one, I think I would invite you to watch the World Cup, watch Copa America, watch, like in the next 2 years, there's a lot of stuff that's happening in LA, and see what those commercials are. But also go on to X, because when I heard during the broadcast, one of the people say like, oh, halftime brought to you by Applebee's, I was like, wait, hold on. Did he say Applebee's instead of Apple Music? Did I hear it wrong? Was that a slip of tongue? Like I had to go on X to see that I was right. I was like, I did hear Applebee's. And so there's like fun moments where Applebee's got a huge amount of earned media unintentionally. And if you're able to pay attention to those moments and leverage it or see how the audience talks, like how you said, Tom Brady's watch stole the show.
Yeah.
Everyone, it was the most gaudy piece of jewelry on the evening.
Still talking about it on social media. He actually wore 100% three different watches in 3 different times, all from that same company. So
he wore 3 different watches?
3 different watches. Same watch during the broadcast, but on a couple of other pre ones. We'll leave links in the show notes on this. Super interesting. Like on the pregame show, like with Michael Strahan, he's kind of comparing watches. There's a clip of him because he's wearing this other one, which is another one that I think it's over 1.2 million. It's so gaudy. But anyway, set that stuff aside. Super interesting dynamics of how marketing interplays with all of this. And you found out that he was being sponsored by that company to wear those watches.
Yeah, it's a $2 to $5 million sponsorship, at least what I was finding on the internet.
Insane. So
it's so much money.
And you're so right about the World Cup, by the way. I mean, the World Cup, the final in 2022, I believe it was 5 billion on all platforms.
It was 1.5 billion people watching,
but engaging on all platforms was over 5 billion.
Okay. Whoa.
Yeah. So anyway, if you compare apples to apples there, the actual event itself, World Cup is 12 times larger, if I'm doing the math correctly, at least that. So my point is yes, this is a big event, but also be mindful of these big events, like how people market, how internationally, how marketers market. And I think you can really learn a whole lot. So hopefully you did learn a fair amount from this show. At least our opinions are very, we agreed on one actually, out of all of them. We didn't even compare notes before we started this, which I thought was super interesting. But anyway,
we talked about how you did not like that open AI one. Remember the motion design one? That was like the black and white dots. I loved it.
I did. Yeah, that was one that we did talk about before we recorded. I'll leave a link that lists them all out here, but that was one that I didn't like, but I remembered. And that's effective. So
I loved it so much. I'm super into motion design right now. We have the studio. So I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. I'm going to use this in our conversations when we're doing like content creation.
Yeah.
I thought it was amazing. I loved it. But yeah, you were like,
I didn't really like it, but that's okay. So send this recording to your creative team. If you're doing like this, I think will. If you didn't do what Lauren did, which basically have all your people like watch all the as an assignment, which I think is great, by the way, send this episode to your team and increase your creative output here, and obviously help scale and grow your business, which is what we're here to help you do here on Perpetual Traffic. So, like I said, all the links, we mentioned a lot of them. We're over in the show notes, almost 2 minute mention over at perpetualtraffic.com. And make sure you're wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a review, leave us a rating. Let us know what you think, especially on Spotify, about this week's show. And on behalf of my awesome, amazing co-host, Lauren E. Petrullo.
Ciao.
Until next show, see ya.